So to go back to what I was saying, would I do it again? I probably would, yeah, to be honest. I mean, I've now built up my own library in the background, and so I'm not starting from scratch. And one of the things I am considering is putting that library out, either some sort of shareware type. Some of it will be free, some of it I'd like to protect. But yeah, I think I probably would do it again.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good. I think that's a good gauge of anything, right? You can do it. Anybody can do it once, and then would they do it again? That's a good question. So, so one of the things I was wondering as you were talking was there were tools like Xamarin, right? That lend itself to .NET development, which is you come from a .NET background, and it's cross-platform in that it supports Android and iOS and stuff like that. Was there a reason why you chose not to go that route?
Well, I'd just written something previously in Corona, and I'd sort of just got to grips with it, and I thought, I can do this in Corona, and we'll go that way. I didn't really look at that much else, to be honest.
Okay.
Whether I will look at other things in the future, I don't know.
Okay. Well, and then also being able to write the whole back-end cloud piece using Lua.
That really sold it to me in the end when that came out. I thought, there we go. I'm not flogging a dead horse for Terminators.
All right. And so for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, Chris Byerly is the developer of Coronium, which you can find at coronium.io, which is basically a whole back-end self-hosted cloud solution that you can use use Lua to write all your logic for the server. And he's got all the instructions there, and videos and documentation and everything. So if you haven't already, go check that out. We'll put a link in the show notes. But does the panel, Brian?
Yeah.
You guys have any other questions for Richard? I mean,
Yeah, Richard, did you use Chromium IO or Chromium GS for your backend?
It's Chromium.io.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any concerns about that getting to the point where you're like, how do I support this as a large enterprise type situation?
Not at the moment. I mean, there is the possibility, obviously, of moving the SQL, the database itself, onto something like SQL Server that I'm more familiar with, and just using Coronium as the interface between the two, which is maybe a way I go down, depending on how many users we get on this, or for other applications in the future. But for now, I mean, I've done some sort of stress testing on it as much as I can with the number of devices I've got and running copies on the simulator and things, and I think we'll be okay.
Well, using a micro instance on Amazon Web Services or small?
It's on a micro at the moment, but I might scale it to a small soon.
Yeah, that's what I found that I had to do was, while the micro is great, I was finding that I had so many IOs that it was costing me as much as having a small. And the small actually decreased my expenses overall.
Yeah, the difficult thing is guessing how often people are going to synchronize with the back end. I mean, the app will synchronize in the background, but it's a sort of slow trickle, which I can sort of control to a certain extent. If people do push the sync button manually every 30 seconds or something, then we might have to look at traffic management on the server.
And remind me, is that the monetization it's a paid app, correct?
At the moment, it's a paid app. I'm considering going free and possibly with ads and paying for synchronization. We'll see how it goes. Possibly on Android, we'll go that route.
Yeah, it definitely would seem like if you could pay to turn off ads, that would be good. Mm-hmm. And then my question earlier about Coronium was not necessarily whether I felt like it would be able to handle the load so much as the monetization aspects of things. Maintaining a system which could exponentially grow, yet not having a revenue stream in order to support that.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I've got my own servers for other projects that I've done in the past, so we could possibly move it onto those.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
As soon as you have a back end, though, then you've got that whole cost issue that you don't know how that's going to explode, and you got to worry about people who steal the app and then use your service for free. So
yeah, I didn't have that. With the original TaskPad, I sort of avoided that because we used someone else's back end. I didn't want to do it.
Charles is laughing.
Limited.
Well, I'm just thinking about all those dirty criminals organizing their schedules for free.
Okay, I was going to say, unfortunately for Richard, I would say that there's going to be fewer people who are going to steal a serious app
versus
people who would gladly steal a game I raised the idea because I'm thinking also of doing a backend, like I said, but I want to do it for a game to host user-created levels. And my fear is my challenge is to find a way to monetize it so that I can sustain it, and that those who steal and try to use the back end don't crash my business, in a sense,
Yes.
or put me in the poorhouse. So.
Okay. Well, Ed, how long do we need for the
We
conversation?
could do it pretty quickly. Did you have anything else, Richard, before I start blathering on like I've already been blathering?
No, I think basically just said that basically what we're trying to do now is I took the decision to push this out and not keep polishing it any longer. It was starting to drag, so that's out there. So we're going to be doing some polish on it over the next couple of weeks, adding some more features. And I've said we're going to try and get it out on Android within the next week or two.
What issues did you run into on the Android side that prevented you from pushing things out?
The main problem I'm having is the different screen sizes. This is quite, this runs, depending on if you run this on an iPhone 5, it runs in the native resolution. I'm not scaling. If it runs on an iPhone 6 Plus, again, I'm not scaling. And I was trying to do the same with the Android, but obviously, you name it, there's an Android out there that size, isn't there? So I'm just working on the scaling and getting it, because the normal sort of scaling you'd use for a game didn't seem to work well for these sort of texts and icons that I was using.
The Android store doesn't really filter out devices, does it?
You can
somewhat
set up. I thought for sure you could set up something in the build settings to filter out certain devices.
It just seems like I don't know if you guys ever remember. What was the name of that store? There was years ago. There was the Pocket PC and all the other phones that were out there, not smartphones, but just the little kiddie phones, and they there was a marketplace for them, and you could actually specify which devices, and then you knew for sure that some way was only going to see your app for that device. It seems like it seems like, well, I guess it's not just Google, right? It's Samsung and everybody else who has a marketplace. They all need to maybe do a better job of filtering that for developers, so they can just say it's only available on this device.
Yeah.
The other
I think
problem
there's a gross way to just like knock off whole sets of devices and build settings, but it's not a very refined method, if at all.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say one thing before I started chatting about the game here, because Richard, I've been working some time now on a couple of business apps, and I also have run into this issue with multiple device resolutions and how do I get the application to look correct in all these different sizes. And the way that I've approached it is basically I've settled on two scaling formats that are based on Apple devices, because that's the primary target. So I chose my #1 resolution as the iPhone 5, which easily goes up to the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus because they're the same aspect ratio. And then I have in my config Lua, I have an alternate path, which is for tablet devices. And I choose the iPad as my base tablet. So then once I've got that working, which is probably like 90% of my market anyways, I've got the Android left. And with Android, what I've done is basically early on in my code, I calculate what the left, right, top, and bottom of the screens are based on what I have to discover.
Yeah.
And then I choose elements within my display, and I reposition them. I don't necessarily rescale them so much as reposition them, so that the app itself merely accommodates the screen, and then the center parts all sort of like fill in the remaining space. Sort of like what they do with the new scaling feature, which is somebody help me out here. I can't remember the name of it.
Who's they?
Say again?
Who's they?
They. Who's they? They. I don't remember when I said they. Recently, in the last 6 months, we've introduced Corona has introduced a new scaling methodology for the config Lua. There was
All right.
scale even, scale zoom, and then the new one, which was it's like best guess in a way, where it tried to maintain the same physical size of the display items. So different screens, you look at them, they look basically the same size.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it starts with an A, and I don't use it, but I do it on my own. And basically what it is I just push the content out to the corners, in a sense, and fill in with the body. So,
Yeah.
So you're kind of letting your controls float.
Yeah. So, well, I detect the situation where they no longer display properly and push them out.